Okay, so this is my second video. On my previous video, I just went through sort of how to buy Hex. I covered, um, you know, hooking up your bank to um, an on-ramp or an exchange such as Coinbase or Gemini. I also talked a little bit about a hardware wallet. How it might be a good idea to buy one before creating a MetaMask, just so that when you do create your MetaMask wallet, which is like an Ethereum account or access to an Ethereum account, you would create one with the hardware wallet um, in your hand at the time that you create it. It would just be a better way. But in this video, I just wanted to sort of talk about why you should consider maybe learning more about Hex. And, if you think it's a good idea for your situation, maybe getting involved in Hex. So I just wanted to talk about really what it is. Um, so let me just share my screen. This is the main website. I kind of came here last time. It already has, the DEX portal embedded in the home page. Here you see the Connect Wallet button, which once you have your MetaMask installed, you just click that and then it pops out from, there's like a little pop out that comes out here. And then you should already have some uh, some assets there, either Ethereum and or USDC. You always need Ethereum anyway to pay transactions when you're doing anything on the Ethereum network. Um, but anyway, so this is website, and I just kind of wanted to go through more of like what Hex is. This is the price performance since it's launched. It's done, what is this? 9,000. Well, at the time that they wrote this, 9,481x. So for every dollar that you put in, that'd be 9,400 bucks, almost 9,500 bucks for every dollar. Yeah, these are the 4 steps that I covered. Getting your MetaMask, buying ETH, which is, setting up an account with one of the main exchanges. There's other exchanges that you can use other than Coinbase and Gemini. I think there's one called Coin Trust and another one called Kraken that are recommended by other people that are in Hex. So anyway, install your MetaMask, buy crypto with regular dollars. So you exchange them here, and then once you have that, you send it to your MetaMask, and then once you have crypto in your MetaMask, then you would go to the DEX, which is this thing over here, or you can go to Uniswap, and then you would stake it. And staking it, pretty much like, what is staking? I guess I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I'm sort of doing a review. So yeah, let me just do a little overview on what Hex is. So Hex is basically a CD. I'm sure you're familiar or heard of a CD. Basically, you lock up your money for a certain amount of time. Let's say, whoops. Let's say this is a timeline, and everyone's time horizon is different. But let's say that you're sort of trying to save for the future, whatever that may be. So this could be 10 years out, this could be 15 years out, this could be 20 years out, whatever your time horizon is. That's up to you. But the way Hex is set up, the maximum period that you could stake for is 555 days, which comes out to being 15.2 years. Oops. And the minimum you could stake is 1 day. This is days. 1 day. And each year, I'm just going to divide this by years. So this will be year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not going to fit. 11. Whatever. Let's just do it. I guess I'll make them smaller. 12. 13, 14, 15, whatever. I should have made it all the way over here, but I didn't. So each year in a traditional CD at your bank, the longer you keep your money, so you got to make an agreement up front. You got to make a contract with the bank. And the idea is if you do it for 1 year, you get a certain percentage in interest, which is higher than if you just leave it in your savings account. So this is essentially like a higher interest savings account, but in order to get that higher interest, you need to lock it up for a certain term. And each year longer that you lock it up, you get a 20% bump for every year. So HEX is the same thing. Every year that you lock longer, you get a 20% increase up to 10 years. So you get an extra 20% up to 10 years, which at year 10, 20% times 10 would be 200%. So let's say you're trying to do $1,000, right? So whatever the interest rate is at the bank, I'm not sure what they're offering for CDs, like 0.5% or yeah, probably something like that, or 0.1, maybe 1%. I doubt it. I haven't looked. I'm not really interested in what the banks offer, but HEX offers on average 38% at the moment. Last time I checked. We'll go look at it right now to get a more accurate number. Actually, maybe I could come here. So this is a really good website. Actually, one of my favorite websites because you just see everything laid out right here. I don't see the average APY. Oh, yeah, right here, 38.9. So this is the way HEX measures time is in days. So it's been we're on day 1004. So 1003 was yesterday. See 831. Today's September 1st. So here's the current day, but the data for the current day still hasn't clicked over. I think it clicks over at midnight UTC time. Yeah, see right now it's 4 p.m. my time, which is EST, but UTC is 4 hours or 8 hours ahead. So 4 p.m. would be 16, 4 hours ahead. Anyway, the point is the day hasn't ended. There's 4 more hours in this day. So in 4.5 hours or whatever, this day will be logged in here. So the most recent data will be here. This is the live data right here. Anyway, so this is 8:31. The price was 4 cents at close. I think they log it in at close. But what I came here to look for was the current interest rate. It sort of fluctuates depending on the day, but yeah, so 38% is still current. So the average stake length, what does that mean? In order for you to get this APY, and this is paid out in HEX. So once you buy HEX, everything is measured in HEX terms. So you get 30% APY in HEX. What does that mean? If your principal is 1,000 HEX, your APY will be whatever percentage, 38% if you stake the average stake length. So back to Hex Daily Stats, average stake length is 6.55 years. So in order to get the average APY, you need to stake for, this is year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.55, be somewhere around here. So you would have to stake this long and delay your ability to withdraw or end your stake for 6.5 years, but you would be getting 38% APY for each year. So in a nutshell, that's what HEX is. It's a CD. It's the first CD on the blockchain. So it's like a crypto CD basically. Blockchain. And the blockchain that it's on, again, is Ethereum. So it's a CD on Ethereum, pretty much. Ethereum is a network, as we discussed on the previous video. So yeah, the idea is you buy HEX and then you lock it up and then you earn interest. And how much interest depends on how long you lock it up. The maximum stake length, again, is 15.2 years or 5,555 days. What a lot of people do is, let's say you had 10,000 HEX, right? And instead of making one fat stake with all 10,000, you could break that up and make like 5 stakes of 2,000 each or 10 stakes of 1,000 each. It would make more sense to make bigger stakes because there are fees that tend to get pretty high when the network is congested, and the fees sort of cancel out any profits that you make. So I would suggest not making too many small ones. I'm not sure what the smallest stake would be in order to cancel out any fees. Obviously, you need to make sure that it's profitable and worthwhile. So right now, HEX is 4 cents. So what would that be? $25 for every 1,000. So it'd be 50. This would be $50. So sometimes transactions, especially when it's really congested, could be $50. So that might be too small to do. But anyway, yeah. So this is pretty much the idea of what you do once you buy HEX. But let me just sort of describe HEX a little bit more in detail and where the yield comes from. That's a big question that a lot of people will usually ask. So let me go back to HEX Daily Stats. Let me see. Where is the current supply? Let me scroll down. Oh, here it is. Okay. So you could see these are all the different statistics. Okay, just making sure I'll share my screen. Total locked value, total liquidity, or supply, total supply. So right now we're at 643 billion HEX are in existence right now. 643 billion. Of that 643 billion, there's 580 billion in circulation. This is how much HEX was minted yesterday, or yeah. So this is what I wanted to get at. So if the total supply is this, 643 billion. Whoops. How do I reverse that? Okay. 643 billion and some change. So the supply of HEX well, the HEX ecosystem is inflationary. So as you saw in the HEX daily stats, there were 10,821,871 HEX that came into existence yesterday. So pretty much HEX inflates at 3.69% a year. And the inflation, so whatever that number would be, from, I guess, January 31st, whatever the number was, you just multiply it by 3.69%, and that would be the inflation for the year, and then you divide that by 365, and then you would get the inflation per day. So I guess the way I try to imagine it is like two different pools. So let's call this the total supply of HEX, which represents this number now, and it's growing. So again, what was that number again? Yesterday was 10.8 mil. Let's just round it. This would be inflation, or minted, newly minted HEX. And this was 10.8 mil HEX came into existence. Okay, so where do these 10.8 million HEX go? Well, obviously they get added to this, but how do they get added to that? Like, who do they go to is what I'm trying to get at. So the inflation, this 3.69% inflation, it gets distributed to people who have stakes open. Simple as that. So that 38% APY average represents this inflation. And it goes to the stakers. So this goes to people that locked up their money. And what happens, so now let me just talk about the act of staking, I guess. Let me erase this. So what happens when you stake? This is you. Every time I delete it, it turns well, I want to change colors. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, ignore this. I guess I could delete it. Just delete it again, sorry. Anyway, whatever. Just ignore this. So this is you. And you have a bag of HEX that you already swapped to, and then you want to go stake it. So just remember that. Imagine this is like a vending machine, and you submit your HEX in here, and then it spits out a receipt that's recorded on the blockchain, some T-shares. And this is like the most important part of HEX. So you input your bag of HEX here, and then again, you could break it up into different little bags, so you could do different durations, which would be called the staking ladder. But anyway, that's not important. Let's just focus on what happens when you stake. So you insert some HEX here, a certain amount that would be known as your principal, or referred to as your principal. So let's say it's a 10,000 HEX stake. So you put in 10,000 HEX, and this machine, this virtual machine, it's referred to as an Ethereum virtual machine. It's a smart contract. The contract sees that you put in a certain amount of HEX, and then you input a duration, so how long you want to lock it up for. And then it calculates with a certain formula how many T-shares you're going to get. Essentially, this T-share is like your interest rate. So the interest rate is variable, and it varies depending on duration. So you pretty much get bonuses the longer you stake. This is time. Going forward, you get a bonus multiplier in the amount of T-shares. So yeah, that's pretty much what happens. You burn your coins at the time that you stake. You tell the machine how long you're going to stake it for, and then the machine creates new T-shares depending on how much HEX you put and how long you put it in for. It gives you a certain amount of T-shares. So we're going to get into T-shares right now, which is the most important and revolutionary part of HEX. Why doesn't this freaking work? There it goes. So what is a T-share? Whoops. So the whole point of HEX, it doesn't just pay you passive income. It also tries to encourage you to delay gratification, which has been proven to be one of the best virtues in self-development, to delay your gratification. Postpone pleasure today for pleasure tomorrow. So it tries to reward people for delaying their gratification. Or sorry, not gratitude, but gratification. Anyway, and when they were designing this system, they didn't want people to make a bunch of short stakes, for 1 year, and then after a year, you get your principal back plus the interest, and then you stake it again for another year, and then you the whole thing, you get the principal and interest, and then you stake that for a year. It would be a bigger principal, so this would be principal plus interest that you would earn during that year. And then the year two, this would be year one. Year two, they would take the principal and the interest and put it in together for another stake for a whole year. And then they would earn interest on the interest. And then year three, they would just keep repeating that. So they'd keep doing principal and interest for another year. So the reason the designers came up with the T-share was because they wanted to make sure that the person who did one long stake always earns more than the person who tries to compound their interest doing shorter stakes and then restaking. In order for them to do that, they came up with this T-share system. So there's a formula involved where when you add your principal and interest after the stake, they wanted to ensure that you would not get the same amount of T-shares. So this website, it's called howtopulse.com. They came up with a really good explanation. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it. So longer stake outperforms multiple short stakes. That's what I just tried to explain. So the fundamental principle, a long stake will outperform multiple successive short stakes. The problem in the development of HEX was it realized that placing short stakes and using the yield to compound back into the new stake and repeating this multiple times over months and years would create a scenario where this compounding effect would outperform a single long stake over the same duration. So that's what I'll try to explain here. A bunch of short stakes where they would add the principal and the interest that they've earned, and then they do it again. In the early phases of the design of HEX, they hadn't come up with a T-share. So in the models, they found that adding the principal plus the interest was earning more than someone just earning interest off the same principal for a longer period. So the way they solved for that is here. Solution: HEX developers designed an ingenious feature that will force the share rate, so they came up with a share rate, to continuously ratchet up incrementally, i.e. share rate will never go down. We'll get to the share rate in a moment. So solution rule: when your stake ends, you cannot create a stake with equal parameters, in other words, the same amount of HEX and the same amount of time, and then receive the same amount of T-shares. So that's what I was just saying. So if you take the principal and the interest, after your stake ends, you won't get the same amount of T-shares to outperform this guy who just did a one long stake. Let me just continue reading. So share rate ratcheting, how is this done? Example, stake length 30 days. Let's say your principal is 100,000 HEX. T-share rate is 20,000 HEX per T-share. Daily payout is 6 HEX per T-share. I think I might have missed the whole T-share thing. So let me just go back. To encourage people to stake longer and bigger, larger amount, there's two separate bonus features. So there's a longer pays better feature where you receive 20% more HEX, effective HEX, for each year you stake. So what is effective HEX? Effective HEX, this is used to calculate your shares. So effective HEX basically means like as if you had a certain amount. So if you have 100,000 HEX and you stake it for a year, you get a 20% bump on that principal. So it's as if you had 120,000 HEX. So the bonus has a maximum of 200%, 20% for 10 years. It caps out at 10 years. And so the effective HEX is then used again to calculate the amount of T-shares. And then they just go through an example here. And here's a formula: 100,000 HEX for 5 years. When the T-share rate is 20,000 HEX per T-share, so the effective HEX is calculated with principal plus principal times years of stake times 20%. So in this case, it's 5 years. So here are the numbers plugged in. So your principal is 100,000 plus 100,000 times 5 times 20 percent, which would be 100%. 5 times 20 is 100. So yeah, that would equal to 200%. So you would essentially double your principal effectively. You wouldn't really double your principal. It would just use double your principal to calculate how many shares you get at this rate. So if you need 20,000 HEX to get 1 T-share, you would only get 5 T-shares if you stake it for a shorter period than a year. But if you stake it for 5 years, you'd get 10 T-shares. So you double it. So here it is. And here's just another example of the ratcheting up. I guess you don't really need to get into all the details. The point is that a longer stake will always outperform shorter successive stakes. Let me just finish reading it, I guess. Trying to save time, but I feel like I'm probably talking in circles and I just want to be more concise. So there's a recalculation after every stake ends. The smart contract, well, let me just read this. At stake maturity, in order to satisfy the rule, the contract will perform a calculation where the amount of shares is now fixed and uses the new amount of HEX, principal plus yield, to solve for the new T-share rate. So the T-share rate is what changes. Remember, it was 20,000 HEX before. Now it's going to be different. Every time a HEX stake ends, the share rate recalculates itself, essentially is what that means. So the number of T-shares equals number of HEX plus principal and yield divided by the share rate. Rearrange and solve for T. So the T-share rate equals number of HEX, principal plus yield divided by T-share rate. T-share rate equals 100,900 HEX divided by 5 T-shares. T-share rate equals 20,180. Notice that 20,180 is incrementally greater than 20,000 original share rate. So basically they add the yield that was earned for that duration of the stake, which was 30 days in this example. So in those 30 days, they earned 900 HEX with 5 T-shares. So at the end of the stake, the smart contract recalculates the T-share and they add the principal and the yield divided by the T-share, and this is the new number. So from there forward, the share rate is 20,180 until the next stake ends. So the bigger the stake, the bigger the bump in the share rate. And let me just show you in this table so you could visualize it. This is the HEX share rate. So it increased by one HEX, but you can see the previous day. So this is going back in time, and you can see how the share rate just continues to increase because as stakes end, the contract continually recalculates by adding the principal of that stake that ended with the yield. They divide it by the current share rate and they come up with a new share rate, and so it just keeps ratcheting up over time. So there's actually another website called HEX Fire down here. They have another visualization. Let me just go to this website. Wait, what was it that I wanted to show? Let me see. I was showing the share rate ratcheting up over time. Yeah, I guess they have a projection. So this is like the projection of the share rate. This is current. You know, it's 23,306 currently. And based on the stakes that are existing, you know, you could actually see when the stakes are ending. So you could sort of project based on when those stakes are ending and how many T-shares are going to get burned, what the share rates will be. And there's a table that allows you to see it easier. So this is new share rate by year. This is by month, but let's just look at it by year. So this is 2022. So I guess by the end of the year, currently, again, it's 23,000 something. By the end of the year, it's projected to be 25,000 HEX to get 1 T-share. And then it keeps increasing. Next year, it'll be 31,000 HEX to get 1 T-share. And then it'll be 38,000 HEX to get 1 T-share, 46,000. And you can see how it just goes into crazy numbers of 116,000 HEX to get 1 T-share. So it's going to continually get harder and harder to get T-shares. And that's why the T-share system is the most important part of HEX. Because they keep getting more and more expensive in HEX terms. And that's not even taken into consideration the value of HEX as it appreciates. This is just in HEX terms. So yeah, where were we? So yeah, so this is just, it goes into the calculation of what happens whenever a HEX stake ends. The principal and yield gets added, and it gets divided by the current share rate, and that gives you the new share rate, essentially. So that's why this longer stake, you know, for 3 years will always outperform 3 one-year stakes, essentially, because after each stake, it'll add the principal and the interest divided by the share rate at that time, and it'll increase it. So this person is going to have to like either add more HEX on top of the principal and interest, or stake it for longer, so like a year and a month, 1.1 years, in order to get this amount of T-shares. And then once that ends, the same thing's going to happen where they're going to have to stake it for 1.1 years again. So this person will earn the same amount of HEX in 3 years, or this person will earn the same amount of HEX in 3.2 years. So that's the whole idea. And that's if this person doesn't spend any HEX or take any profits in between. So yeah, So if you're not going to spend any hex after, in between, then what is the point of doing these 3 smaller stakes? There's no point. And that's the whole point. And then obviously, if you do a 5-year stake, you'll earn more than 2 3-year stakes, and yada yada yada. So that's pretty much, in a rambly way, what HEX is. It's a mechanism where you could lock up your principal for a certain duration of time, and then you get higher interest rate the longer you stake. Let me just go to this calculator too. So this is a really cool website. It's called hexnoob.com. It's like a link tree, I guess, where it just has all the websites that you would need revolving around Hex. Here's the main website. Here's the different exchanges where you could buy it. I mean, you could buy it in the main website, as I showed you. But that little, this thing, where is it? This thing is basically the same thing as one of these things. They just take the portal and they embed it in the website. So, but these are the actual exchanges where you could buy Hex using MetaMask. These are decentralized exchanges. This is where you can stake it. There's actually a new website where you can stake it called Icosa. It's a dApp. It's really cool. I'll make a video on that later, but right now I just want to focus on Hex. These are the statistics sites. This is the Hex Daily Stats site that I really like because it has all the numbers you could possibly ever need to see what's going on under the hood of Hex. Where is it? Then there's calculators. So this is Hex Calculator, hexcalc.net. So this is just an easy way to project, like if you have 10,000 Hex and you want to see what you'll get for 1 year. Calculate. This is just an easier way to see all this. So you would get half of a Tshare, because right now the share rate is 23,000. So you know what? Let's just use that number. 23,306, and you stake it for 1 year. You get 1.1 Tshares actually, or 1.2. That's interesting. So let's say you wanted to get a Tshare as cheap as possible. You would have to, so 365 times 10, that would be the max bonus that you get. So you'd get 3 Tshares. So you'd triple the amount of Tshares by staking it for 10 years plus. So let's say you wanted to get the cheapest Tshare. If you get 23,000 Hex, 23.3 thousand Hex, you stake it for 10 years, you get 3 Tshares. So let's say you wanted to get 1. So you could either divide the time by 3, or actually by more than 3, or you could divide this by 3, which would be, I think, 7,700. Actually, yeah, I think it's something like 7,700. Yeah, a little bit more than that. 77. Let's just do 7777. Yep. So right now, the cheapest you can get a Tshare, if you're willing to wait 10 years, is 7,777 Hex. So right now for 23,000 Hex, it's $939 because Hex is 4 cents. So you just multiply 4 times 23,306, and then it equals this. That's how they get the Tshare price. You can't really buy a Tshare, but this is how much it would cost to get a Tshare's worth of Hex. Obviously, you could. What I just did here is I divided it by 3 because I staked it longer. So essentially, you're getting a discount on a Tshare, but what you're paying is with time. So if you divide this by 3, that'd be like what, 313? Yeah. So 7,777 Hex would cost $313. So if you'd be willing to wait 10 years, you could get a Tshare for 313 bucks. Mm, yeah, that's a pretty cool calculator. And it just allows you to see, your effective hex. So even though you have 7,777 hex as your principal, because you're staking it for 10 years, um, see, this is your stake amount, this is your principal. This is the current value. Oh, look, it was all here. I was doing it in my head. Current USD value of these 7,777 hex is 313. Um, your longer pays better bonus, this is because you're staking it for 10 years, is this much. So if you add this to this, it equals 23,000 effective hex, which, as you can see, is the same as this number, a little bit more, which is why you get that 0.1. So your effective hex matches the share rate, the amount of hex you need for one Tshare. So the smart contract calculates your principal as if it was 3 times bigger to give you that one Tshare because you're putting in time. So this is the bonus that it gives you essentially. Yeah, and then this is your projected at today's value. This is the yield that you would earn, 26,000, which at today's value, in other words, if hex stays at 4 cents for 10 years, you would earn, $1,072. So that plus your principal, your yield plus your principal equals, you would have 34,000 hex, which would be $1,300 in 10 years. Your ROI is 341%. So you more than triple your money, and your APY would be 34%. So let me just show you what would happen to these numbers. So if you maxed it out, so what is the benefit of staking longer than 10 years if the bonus, you're going to see this won't change very much. If I do 5555 and calculate, see, this didn't change very much. You still have 1.1 Tshares. Your longer pays better bonus is still 15,554, but now your returns are a lot higher. So before it was, I think, 341%, something like that. Your APY was 34%. Now it's 37 per year. For the whole term of 15 years, it would be 575% returns. Yeah, and this is the USD value. If hex were to stay at 4 cents for 15 years, which I doubt that will happen. But yeah, so the benefit of staking beyond 10 years is you get to hold on to the T-shares. Remember, the share rate increases whenever a stake ends, but once you lock in your shares by creating a stake, you have those shares for the duration of the stake. So by having these T-shares for 5 extra years beyond the 10 years in the previous example, you continue to earn yield at that rate for five extra years. So it comes out to 575%, almost 6 times your money, 5.7 fold your money. Versus, what was it again? 3650. So 575, 5.75 fold. This is 3.4 fold. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. This is why you'd want to stake HEX, because you earn yield, you make passive income on your money. Obviously, yield is good, but above all else in crypto, what makes real gains is appreciation. So where can we find a chart so you can see how much it's appreciated? I mean, we already went through like the ROI. I'm pretty sure there's, right here, HEX.vision. This is just a chart from the beginning of, oh no, this isn't HEX.vision. I thought it was Uniswap.vision, but This is all the stakes that are opened. I don't know what this is. But you could go in here and you could look at all this data. Yeah, these are all the stakes that are currently active, and it tells you when they end. So it would be a good idea to create stakes when no one else is ending. There's a big chunk here. 2030, there's a lot of stakes ending there. A lot of people are making 10-year stakes. Dashboards, swap V1. What is this? I don't know, let me get out of here. I was looking for a chart. Uniswap.vision is where the chart is. Anyway, the point is that, oh, here it is, price charts. I'm gonna go to V1 because it shows the history from when it launched. Here's more cool sites. Howtopulse.com is that website that I was in where it explains the Tshare if you want to go through it by yourself. But here's a historical chart from when HEX existed. I'm going to put it in logs so you can see in a better way, a more clear way what happened. So HEX launched here in 2019. It dipped, and then it came all the way up here to where it is now. So if I take out log, the dip looks a lot more extreme, but you can't really see the detail for the first like 2 years until it took off in this massive run up. It just looks a lot more exaggerated when it's in linear form, so I'll put it in log form, and this is more what it really felt like. So you could see the bigger pumps. This one wasn't the only pump. I mean, this is a big pump from here to here. Let me just measure what the move was. I'm going to exclude that wick just because it was kind of an extreme little price movement, but I'm just going to put it here. This was 157x. So if you put in $100 here at 0.003 cents and sold at, what is this, 48 cents, you would have made, if you put $1 here, you would have made 157 bucks. So for every dollar you put in, if you put in $1 here, so I'm just showing you this price increase to show you that the APY isn't the only way that you make money. So this would be for every dollar that you put in here, if you sold here, you would have made $9,158.16. If you had put in $1 and staked it, obviously you would have made, I guess this is 600 days. So if you staked it for 600 days, if you somehow knew the future, you know, your stake ended here, that would have been like 2 years. So you made like 40% on top of this. So, so the yield is nice because you know that you're constantly making APY in your sleep, even while the price does its thing with its volatility, you know, pumps and then it kind of corrects. This has been the longest correction in HEX's history, as you can see. I mean, the high was like somewhere over here, and this is today. It's been almost a year that it's been trending down, but it was trending up, I guess, let's say from here, for almost 2 years. It was going up, and it's been going down for a year. So, you know, I think it could turn around and continue to appreciate. Because what I'm trying to say is the APY isn't the only reason why you should buy HEX or consider buying HEX. I mean, it's nice to make 38% on average. Obviously, the longer you stake, you get more. So if you stake 5555, as you saw, your returns weren't 38%. They were like 580%, let's say. And that's not even including the appreciation. So a lot of people were able to make a lot of money by investing in HEX, and this might not be the end. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to go through some tools and some basic information on why HEX may be a good idea to look into and maybe even invest into. So yes, I guess that's it. I know I probably rambled, but maybe I'll make some more videos to clarify. Thanks for watching.